Good morning, listeners, and welcome to Here I Stand, a radio ministry of the Christian Emergency League. I'm Pastor Calvin Lindstrom, joined as always by Pastor James Pittman. We are so blessed to have an honored guest with us in studio today, Lieutenant Colonel Allen West. And I do believe he is an American hero. Our nation has been blessed by American heroes, past and present, and he is someone who is not afraid to speak truth and ruffle feathers. So, Lieutenant Colonel Allen West, thanks so much for joining us. He likes to go into communist countries and communist states.
Well, you should feel at home in Illinois. Then.
He's with us in the People's Republic of Illinois. Yeah. So, welcome, sir.
Thank you so much, Pastor Calvin.
Thank you. So,
Pastor James.
We're going to get into our first topic. We're going to play a clip. One of the things I've recognized when I've read up on Colonel West, Lieutenant Colonel West, he likes speaking the truth, which ruffle feathers. So he'll fit in great here at Here I Stand. So let's play the first clip, and then we'll get into our first topic we want the Colonel to talk about.
About a week ago, Congressman, you said that the Congressional Progressive Caucus had 70 or so communists. Do you have any regrets about those?
No, I don't regret it whatsoever. And I think that if you would take the time to study the political spectrum of ideologies, you would understand that at the turn of the century, American communists renamed themselves as progressives. If you study the Woodrow Wilson administration, people referred to the Woodrow Wilson administration as a progressive administration. Now, what I would hope that people would do in the media is maybe you should do a little research and start looking at what political ideologies are, what they stand for. There's a very thin line between communism, progressivism, Marxism, socialism, or even, as Mark Levin has said, statism. It's about nationalizing production. It's about creating and expanding a welfare state. It's about this idea of social and economic justice, and you hear that being played out, now with fairness, fair share, economic equality, shared sacrifice, ad nauseum, ad infinitum. And it's also about creation of a secular state. And this whole argument that the liberal left is trying to take you down, talking about women's contraception, is really about a federal government that is reclassifying religious organizations for them to be able to manipulate them however they wish.
Now, that clip was
That was me?
Yeah, that was you. Wow. That clip, I think, was uploaded in 2011, but that was much earlier, right?
No, that was 2011.
That was 2011? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That was 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Since then, they've elected a mayor in New York.
Yes, that's right.
You were ahead of the curve.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you called some of your colleagues in Congress communists.
Well, that's what they are. That's
Right.
what progressivism is. And,
Yep.
yeah, the thing about what the military teaches you is that leadership is prescient. The good leader, if you go back and you read and study Sun Tzu, the good leader sees the battle before the battle has even begun, before the battle is even being fought. And so back then in 2011, when you listen to these people, when you listen to them talking about wealth redistribution, which is a Marxist philosophy, from each according to their ability to each according to their need, yes, this is who they are. This is about courage. You cannot be reticent. You cannot be recalcitrant to call the political opposition who they are based upon their ideology. And if we had recognized that back then, like you say, 15 years ago, maybe we wouldn't have, the Zoran Mamdanis or some of these other people that are sitting here and professing Marxist, socialist, and communist ideologies, because that's what this is.
Oftentimes I look at the news and I scratch my head because I don't understand why people in leadership in Congress can't see what's obvious. What is the reluctance?
It's fear.
Yes.
From whom? From
well,
what?
that's the whole point, is that as a Christian, we shouldn't live in the realm of fear. Isaiah 54:17 says, "No weapon formed against you shall prosper; no tongue that rise against you shall you shall condemn." And even God told Joshua, "Be strong and of good courage, for the Lord thy God shall never leave you nor forsake you." So we should definitely not be the ones operating in the realm of
We'll
fear.
get to that later
But
on,
the thing is that so many people up on Capitol Hill and in the halls of Congress or wherever, that, what's the Washington Post going to say? What's the New York Times going to say? What's the Chicago? What's y'all's paper here? Chicago Tribune.
I don't know. I don't read it. I think it's Chicago.
And that's the point. Most people don't even read it. So why should you care about these folks? And so then when I'm sitting there, some person from the media asked me this question, and that's why I said maybe you guys should do some research. And I'm not going to. I have no regrets because why should I regret speaking what's true? And so I think that's what has to happen. But again, Pastor James, we as the electorate need to look for courage in elected officials, and we need to challenge them to show courage. And if they don't show courage, say, "Hey, you got to go," because these are some very interesting times in which we live now.
Yeah, James, I think you look at that fear, you see it in companies. Let's say the example, Chick-fil-A, that once stood for truth.
My goodness! Now you're hitting it home because I'm from Atlanta.
But
and that's
now
what
I think capitulated to the pressures of the culture. And I think we forget, James, how much courage it takes to do what Lieutenant Colonel West did.
Oh, yeah.
You know? Because we can, you speak boldly, James, and you're not afraid. I would like to say we're the same. Once you raise up the levels of influence, power, the news media has a very, I would say, a captivating elixir, right? It drags people into its, and so it takes courage to stand against that. So
yeah, but I don't understand fear. I remember we were on vacation in South Carolina. Trump had just announced his he was running for office.
Yeah,
and I was like, well. He has no shot. We're driving. And I remember at the time, Emmitt Smith pulled out of the Miss USA and said he didn't like what Trump said. And I was like, oh, here we go. He comes down and he says, paraphrasing, he's just a running back. I'll get another one. He doesn't mean anything. I'll get another, not a big thing. I turned to my wife and said, he might win. He might win. He might win. Because Republicans oftentimes back down.
No, you're right.
And the fear they were a fearful campaign. You see it today.
Correct.
And I remember I told my wife, because everyone's poo-pooing him at the time, like, he might win. He might win. That's courage. I'll find another one back. But I don't understand. Are they that captivated by bad press?
Yes.
Really?
What you just talked about is that what I've always said is Republicans bring a plastic spoon to a gunfight.
Yeah, that's true.
And especially when you look at someone like Barack Obama. I remember when Barack Obama was running against Mitt Romney in 2012. Mitt Romney was on with Bill O'Reilly, and Mitt Romney was asked this very simple question, do you think that Barack Obama is a socialist? And Mitt Romney poo-poo said, well, I don't want to get into this name calling. And I said, click, you're done.
Wow,
no, you're right.
Because anybody that's standing up there talking about redistribution of wealth and nationalizing economic production, which is what Obamacare is, yes, they are Marxists. They are a person that subscribes to a socialist economic model. So again, and when I was there, we had John Boehner, we had Eric Cantor, we had Kevin McCarthy, we had Paul Ryan. These guys saw these things, but yet they were afraid to say exactly what it is. And that clip that you just showed, I got called into the office, to the principal's office. Well, Al,
you have got to.
Were you accused of being a McCarthyite?
Oh, of course. I mean, that's what Joe Scarborough came out and said.
Yes.
And again, I'm sitting here saying, guys, bring it.
Right.
As Charlie Kirk would say, prove me wrong. And when you stand on a moral high ground, that's what you should say. Prove me wrong. And when people would not be that issue, that whole thing died when I started talking about ideology. I started talking about policy, and that's what you have to do. Go in office. No one wins on defense. I spent 22 years in the military. Show me a battle, a war, or anything that was won on defense. No, because even if you have a successful defense, you got to counterattack.
You got to score.
Right. You got to score. If you intercept the ball and you don't run it back for a pick six, you still got to score.
Got to score. I remember I was working in the hospital at the time. Obama was running against McCain. And we were looking at some lunch break or something, I forget. We were looking at the television, and Obama was giving a speech. And the doctor was from the Eastern Bloc. She said, we were looking at the speech together, and she said, I consider myself a Democrat since I've come here. But then she pointed to the picture. She said, but that is what I fled.
Yeah.
She saw it clearly. She said, that's what I fled.
Right.
wow, maybe I just underestimate
Mm-hmm.
the power that fear grips
Mm-hmm.
people, even congressmen.
Yeah.
Golly, I just
No, it's fear is taken. Look, we all have concerns, fears, whatever. Look, I've been in combat. I
Yeah.
mean, nobody goes into combat and say, "Oh, this is combat. It's going to be fine."
Right.
But you don't take counsel of it.
exactly.
You know, you respect it and you say, "Okay, this is how I will mitigate it." But when you see these things that are so clear, so obvious, and these things that are a threat to the foundation of this great nation, and you don't stand up and speak out against it,
Yeah.
this is what has to happen. And I think that the conversation has to occur. We're in our 250th year. And if you read all of the history books, we're 50 years past our life cycle. Okay? 50 years. So we're pushing it. So now is the time for us to have this conversation. Because if you go back, pastors, think about where we were at our bicentennial, 200 years.
Yeah.
Think about the things that have happened in just 50 years.
50
Yes.
years.
We don't know what a woman is.
And
Right.
In 50 years, we can't tell what a woman is. Or all of a sudden, our Supreme Court has to hear a case about whether or not little biological boys should be in sports with girls.
unbelievable.
50 years, that's how dumb we've gotten.
And now, for here I stand, the issue, I understand fear of the people who don't know God. But for our purposes in our radio station, fear, Calvin and I, we
Right.
know fear is in the pulpit.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
It's with men who claim to worship God Almighty,
Right.
but are afraid to even go to a school board meeting and read
Right.
God
Exactly.
created male and female.
Yep.
You realize me and Calvin were the only ones that were in this area that can go and say God created male and female. Other pastors wouldn't do it. We're up against a hard break. We're up against a hard break. We'll be back real soon at For Here I Stand with Lieutenant Colonel Alan West.